So far, so easy peasy, man. This is where I think it gets a little bit dicey. Do I just go with basics? Will basics do it? Yeah, basics. Okay, there we go. Well, greetings and hello there, everybody. It's me, your beloved Star Wars Dad, Dude Stu Good. I'm here with Calvin Awesome once again, and we're going to talk through the CLS abilities, or the abilities on the CLS teams, which one are most important and which ones are least important. Hey, Calvin, thanks for joining me to talk about these today, man.
Oh yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I think there's a lot to be discussed and definitely something we can learn out of this too.
So yeah, you reached out to me, or I don't know if you reached out to me actually. You were just commenting. I've been doing these polls for a long time, and the most recent poll, and probably like we were just talking about, sort of going for a long time, is just looking at these abilities on these different teams. So what's the best ability on the CLS team or the Padme team? And you've been commenting and voting on those. So I thought we'd get together and just talk about it for a little bit, because it's really fun to see people's different takes on the abilities out there.
Yeah, and I think there is a relevant practicality to it too, especially when it comes to competing Zetas, or even when you're in the middle of a battle. Knowing which button you're supposed to mash more often is pretty helpful.
Mashing buttons is all. I'm really good at mashing buttons, man. That's what I excel at.
Big part of the game.
Yeah, and you might say it's my speciality, possibly. So hey, I just started here. This was kind of the final round of the Galactic Legend Ultimate Ability, and Jabba and SLKR made it to the end. I love SLKR's Ultimate, and I do think it's actually the best one as far as applying to the character, but I don't think Jabba really belonged. I mean, I like Jabba's, but I don't know. It seems like it's just kind of an extra to me. I don't know. What did you think? Were there any other, like, Galactic Legend abilities you felt are better than Jabba's? Or Kylo?
Oh, I'd have to take a larger analysis, but looking just at the SLKR versus Jabba comparison, I would definitely agree with Supreme Leader Kylo Ren being the first slide, just because the Galactic Legends that he stops beating, or at least stops beating at a high win rate, there's several of them. You will struggle much more against Lord Vader if you're not able to double your mastery gains on a lot of the hits. You're most likely not tanking Rey ultimates. You're not going to be able to bail yourself out of a weird situation with JMK where you can avoid, or JML where you can avoid the ability block if you're going, or you're trying to solo a JML Watt team or something like that. So it just is more relevant. Jabba's is hard though, because while it might not be the most impactful, it's really fun to eat someone with a Rancor.
Well, you know what? And we're here to have fun. I agree with that 100%, and I agree with the impactful. It's like Jabba's team kind of runs off his abilities and their abilities, and they're going to do a lot of damage no matter what. So it's just kind of this little extra thing at the end that you get to launch a Rancor out of the cage and, devour someone. I agree with that. So, all right, I think we're on the same page there. Now, the first comments I noticed you starting to make were for CLS, and his basic finish was 7% in the first round, and I remember you being like, guys, the basics. So tell us about CLS's basic and what's going on there.
Yeah, so part of this has to do with how CLS has aged throughout the years and how he interacts with his own team. Because when CLS very first came out, he was one of the primary damage dealers for it, and you needed to use call to action a lot more to not only gain the offensive boost, but also to be able to ignore taunt, because the team didn't really have any AoEs to go with it.
Yep.
Ever since, CLS has moved into much more of the turn meter engine for the team, and the reason why that's relevant to specifically the basic ability is because the basic ability has the most amount of debuffs that it will try to apply, and if you look at CLS's kit as a whole, it's going to get turn meter whether those debuffs are resisted or whether they land between how his leader and his unique work. In addition to that, you also have C-3PO on the team who allows exposes through through the basic abilities. So you're getting not only another expose, which might be helpful in some circumstances, but you're looking at getting even more turn meter. I really don't hate, actually, the percentage that Use the Force has, to me, is dead on. I would just swap the first and the third ability, because sometimes it is necessary to put buff immunity out there if you're needing to get around some really sticky taunts. CLS can beat can punch up against Jabba if it has the right datacron. It's happened several times, and Kersantin's taunt just does not go away if you don't apply buff immunity. So overall, basic is very relevant.
I also like, for me, the basic to me, it's as simple as you're also getting a stun on it, about half the time if you landed that defense down too. So yeah, I don't know. It's fun to watch people, and I think people go toward the I don't know, what's the right word? The sexy one, the one that sticks out, the you don't really want to ever say the basic is the best one, right? But I think that's a really good point when you bring up that basic. But let's look at his uniques too. So yeah, so people picked his lead over it binds all things, and I don't know, I'm kind of halfway between those two. They kind of combined what you talked about was not landing a debuff or landing a debuff. That's between the lead and the it binds all things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I would probably, well, I'm not sure if I would say that it's, 2 times better, and I guess that's really not how these polls work as far as the percentages go, but I probably would side with the lead overall. And then, again, that is something that has changed throughout time. When CLS first came out, the only team that going against it, having all your debuffs resisted was relevant against was Rex. It's just not true anymore. There are a ton of teams out there that either have tenacity up as an AoE ability or just have some way to gain a ton of tenacity or just resist debuffs in general. Like one of the reasons why CLS can beat Padme is because she will sit there and constantly resist everything you throw at them. So you can actually completely loop with CLS, and It Binds All Things does help with that, and it's very good. I'm definitely not trying to trash that one. But even I think Learn Control is a little underestimated. One of the things that I left out in regards to the last abilities, one of the reasons why you don't want to swap stances is because CLS needs to be gaining turn meter so that he can keep giving turn meter. If you swap stances, you lose out on that a little bit. But yeah, lead is probably best, but they're all good.
Yeah, that's the thing about CLS. It's a hard one because everything's good, and then his lead just wiped out call to action in the finals. So I don't think we need to. Yeah, that makes sense. So now, what about the rest of these? And that was kind of the big conversation I saw you having. But as we go through the rest of them, I'll let you talk, and we don't need to go super in depth on every single one. But when you see one that sticks out, grab me here because like Chewbacca. I mean, Pulverize is probably the best one, but like you said, the basic with the exposes is not so bad either, right?
Yeah, I do really like Pulverize just because of how it synergizes with the basic. When Chewbacca does that, he's going to give himself buffs. So that means every other hit that you're getting, whether it be from a special or a sustain or his countering under the CLS lead, he's amplifying every single one of the hits he's going to do. The Dispel is nice. CLS kind of has other solutions for that, but it's more so the buffs. And then in addition to that, he, through his unique, is going to be healing all the team based off of how many times he deals damage. And an AoE, just by definition, is supposed to deal more damage or more individual hits of damage than the basic ability or a single hit would do. So it comes out on top, and I think in a few different regards.
Well, I'm going to change the title of this video. I was thinking Calvin responds to polls. I'm going to change it to Calvin is smarter than Nooch is what we're going to change the title of this video to. Because I
mean, you're pretty much we're agreeing on almost everything, though, right?
I agree. We're agreeing, but man, you got it. Your explanations are tremendous, dude. So this is great. And loyal friend. I mean, I don't think there's any. I mean, that's just there, right?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not sure if I remember exactly what each one does. I'm pretty sure loyal friend is the one that applies guard, especially given the symbol.
Yes.
Raging Wookiee. I can't remember. Is that the one where his Zeta makes him immune to ability block and cooldown reductions?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, but the loyal friend, making the team so they can't be stunned or dazed or crit. They can't be critted, or making not the team, but CLS and Han Solo basically.
Sure.
And then we got
it just does way too many things. Guard was a really great mechanic. How to make a character not be a tank, but still be able to save their team was a very cool idea.
Yep. It was fun, and so, talking about the CLS team, it's fun to see how it came. It has evolved over time, like you've been talking about. Like, it started off with CLS and Cheerit and Baze, and you might throw a GK in there sometime. It was a different team. R2 would be in there, and then I don't remember if Chewie. I don't even remember. Was that before Han? That was even before Han. Yeah.
Han was in it for the most part, but this is a really weird time in Galaxy of Heroes history where they were using Titan teams, where CLS might have been the only rebel on the entire team. You could make a full rebel team, and there were some instances where that was a good idea, especially with Territory Wars that came out, I think shortly after. I'm probably getting my timeline a little bit mixed up. But Han, I believe, was Han, R2, Old Ben, or if you add Chase, that was probably optimal as well.
Yep. Well, Han came out with, I guess Han was the reward for the original Rancor. Okay, that makes sense. I was thinking it was different. All right, let's talk about Han then. So, I mean, is there any argument that shoots first is his best ability?
I mean, there isn't any argument that it's not. It definitely is. I really do like Deadeye. Quick Draw is okay too. Never told me the odds. I mean, I don't even use it all the time.
No.
There are some instances where it's good because you can loop around and get back, but there's sometimes when you're going against General Skywalker where feeding him, I think, what is it, like 10, 12 buffs or something like that across the team isn't advantageous. It just varies, but yeah, it definitely comes out of shoots first.
Right. I agree with that, but I just think Han's whole kit, never tell me the odds, it's crit damage and evasion, right? Isn't that what it is? Those two things? Or crit
yes,
chance.
That sounds right. And then I think he gets like crit damage up for himself or something.
Yeah. Crit chance to me, it used to be a thing, but I almost never use anything that has to do with crit chance. It just seems like it's just an extra. Like you're gonna crit when you need, I don't know. Crit chance just doesn't do much for me in general. I know you made a really good video maybe 6 months ago now about characters that do need crit chance. It's just not very common that you need it in the game.
It's died out a lot, especially at the high end, because there are just so many characters that are either immune to it or have a huge amount of avoidance, or they have a bunch of defense, and you're better off choosing a team that deals true damage. So it definitely does have its place. Like I actually lost a battle yesterday specifically because my Jedi Anakin didn't crit everyone on his AoE. But it is more niche overall. Yep.
All right, let's keep going on the CLS team here then. So on 3PO, we've got his basic baffling trick. Oh my goodness. Wins out over Fretful. See, these two, I think, Fretful Mediator and Intermediator, I think are the Resistance and Galactic Republic ones, if I remember right. I don't know. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, oh my goodness, definitely wins for me. The 2 stacks of confusion and then an added mass assist. It goes in again to all the turn meter mechanics that happen with CLS, because for every character you call in and whatever they're trying to do, debuff wise, if it gets resisted, you get more turn meter, or in CLS's case, if he does get the debuff, then you still win no matter what in the turn meter regard. And the issue that I have with the uniques is they're all good, but the problem is they're all spread out. So individually, they don't really pull that much weight. It's more so collectively that they start to make 3PO have a lot more value, because while each one is outfitted for a specific faction, they all do give a little bit of a bonus to all of them.
By the way, I just noticed here, I've never seen this, and oh my goodness, in the picture, the Han Solo's in the background of that, so that's kind of cool to have big like that. But I also like his basic, just pulling turn meter, just a little bit of turn meter. What is it, 20% or something each time, or 15? But
something like that. And I mean, he gets to expose on it too, which is fun.
Yes, absolutely. And then Protocol Droid, I guess that's his one that goes. This is a hard one for me because there's 5 uniques. This is the one that goes along with. This is the translation one, right?
I don't know.
I
do not. This one. The uniques are a little bit harder for me because the specials you see, and there's a practicality of which one you should use and when.
Right.
The unique, they only really come into conversation at all when they have a Zeta or an Omicron on them, and you need to look into what that does.
Right. I think this is the translation. It's a picture of translation on there. And I think the Cyborg Relations is the one that works with Rebels. So I think that's what we got there. But, I mean, the translation is what you got to go with on that. And then, of course, oh my goodness, is that his best ability? Based on what you said before, the debuffs?
Yes, and so again, I am not familiar with what Protocol Droid does overall enough.
It's the stacks of translation. It's funny, you get to using these things and use them so much that you just start to forget. I think it reduces cooldowns at 3 stacks. But anyway, we can go with that. Unless you, yeah.
Well, yeah, and it has to do a lot with how the game has evolved. Back in the day, I think they used to, when they wanted a character to do multiple things on uniques, they would spread out the uniques, and I guess you would burn more Omegas or Zetas that way. Nowadays, though, you'll just get like these uniques that are 5 or 6 paragraphs long that all sum up what the character does. So I know, like, I can tell you what 3PO does. I'm not sure if I could tell you where he does it.
I get
it. It does. It looks like you're right. He gets 20 speed. Translation goes out. Yeah, I mean that's probably the best unique out of all of them. Oh my goodness, I don't know. They're so intertwined because oh my goodness applies translation.
Yeah, that's the hard part about the whole thing. It's like they all work, or not all work together, but when you find two that work together, whether it's on the team or for the character, how do you assess one better than the other? But that's why we're voting. That's why we're having fun. So
yeah, that one's actually really close now that I look at it.
I think you're right about that. Okay, Chewpio. So Chewpio's got 4 abilities here. To me, his unique, where he shares the abilities with the rest of the team and it spreads it. His stuff, his kit is so good.
It is very good.
I mean, blind and buff cleanse along, and then the AoE with every character dies, he hits again. But the unique where it's, what is it, 40% of his health and protection of the leader goes to Chewpio and offense, and then 20% to the rest of the team. It's just so vital on the team.
It is, and it's one of the reasons why CLS is still relevant in the meta. The rest of the kit is good, which it makes this comparison a little bit harder, because Shining Distraction, it's a buff removal, its cooldowns are super low, so you can use it a lot, and then Blind as an additive effect, and I believe this is actually under the unique, but they can't attack at a turn. So it almost functions as 2 stacks of translation, the way that 3POs would, or not the translation, 2 stacks of confusion, but the confusion also does other things. But yeah, overall, just great kit, but it is really hard to take away from the stats, especially because how those are going to scale throughout time. When we get, I don't have CLS at Relic 9, but if you were to apply them to Relic 9 or Relic 10 comes out and you get out there, like that just keeps getting better and better.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with everything there. And his kit is really the thing that really took this team to another level. Like, I went through and I did tier 3 of the Imperial Assault, whatever the Assault battle is, with a Gear 11 Chewpio. It was 7-star Gear 11. Everybody else was like Relic 1 or 2. And just the fact that he was on the team at Gear 11, it was able to get through tier 3 of that Assault battle. So he's awesome. All right, so let's look at this now. Now we get to the face-off of CLS's lead versus Shoots First versus Loyal Friend. What do you think here? It's so
I
hard,
have to analyze this a little bit more close. It probably is still the leadership. I would probably swap the Chewbacca with Han, though.
I agree.
I think one of the reasons why the leadership is still beating out Loyal Friend or Guard in the scenario is actually because of Chewpio. Before we had Chewpio and Chewbacca, both Han and CLS are super squishy. And Guard fixed that, but the new Baka coming in and his stat share kind of does a very similar thing, because we didn't talk about it, but in new Baka's or Chewpio or whatever his name is, in his unique is actually additional crit avoidance. So if Guard were to just, like CG just say, we're not doing Guard anymore because whatever reason, you could just start modding Han and CLS for a little bit of crit avoidance. And I think CLS might have some built. Yeah, he has some built into his Learn Control Zeta too. Anyways, all I have to say, I think there are easier ways to mitigate losing Guard than losing the leadership Zeta. Like the leadership is just too much. Yep.
I agree, but I've never heard him called New Baka. That's the first one for me. I've actually called him Chewpio the whole time.
I said it once on accident and it stuck, and now I still say it on accident a lot, and then I'll get comments of like, it's objectively Chewpio. I'm like, is it? Is it?
All right, here is it. It's Chewpio's unique again, like we've been saying, right? That just kind of carries the team.
It still is. Yeah, that's just so hard to compete with.
And how about this?
Yeah, I think still. Just see if that goes away.
It's so hard, right? Because there will be a leader ability of some sort on the team. So how do you even measure if it goes away? Like, because
it's not even just the turn meter; it's the counters.
Yeah.
Like the only reason the CLS team constantly counters is because of that leadership. And I mean, there's some other stats in there too. Yeah, taking away the leadership, you take away the personality of the whole team.
Yep. And every time they counter, they land exposed, I would rather take right?
The stat hit.
Yeah.
What's that?
Every time they counter, they're landing exposed every single time with those basics too. I
would rather take the stat hit, as much as it pains me to say that.
Yep. But we did. I do think it's awesome with the voting. You have differences and stuff, but when you get to the end, I feel like we got the two most important abilities here at the end of the voting.
That is actually really funny too, especially considering. The basic was up against the other special, so no, that would have been. Yeah, the leadership would have beat out the basic because the basic does what the leadership tells it to.
Right. So there it is. These are your best abilities for the CLS team, and it was fun there at the end, Calvin. That we went through a couple of round trips there, like with CLS's basic, like we just mentioned, but it just comes back to the best abilities win out in the end, right?
Oh yeah, and it makes sense. Your leadership is your core, and every single team has to have one. It checks out that it would come out on top.
All right, well there you go. Hey everybody, we'll thank Calvin Awesome for joining us. We'll be back soon to talk about another team, and of course, always remember, Nooch and Calvin Awesome, too good.